Hi, I'm Mary Mammoliti, and I love comfort food. It's the food that makes you smile and happy with every single bite. And one of my favorite comfort foods is pie. And today, I get to bake alongside a pastry expert, and I hope you'll join me. I love the sizzle of butter melting in a pan, the smell of cinnamon while I'm baking. I need to touch food while it's cooking and, of course, taste it, even if I can't see it very well. To me, cooking should be fun. That's why I've invited chefs from across Canada who feel the same way I do to cook with me, virtually. Welcome to Dish with Mary. Tina Lau is a pastry chef and loves to bake, and pies, well, they're her specialty. She once owned and ran her own pie business in Montreal before moving to Vancouver, where she met the co-founders of Flourist and now works as operations manager. At Flourist, she gets to play with premium ingredients, including fresh local produce, and of course, different wheat and flour varieties that transform baked goods to a whole other level. Joining us from British Columbia is Tina Lau. Hi, Tina.
Hi, Mary. How are you today?
I am fantastic. For me, any day can be pie day. And I'm so excited to be with you because pies are your specialty.
Absolutely. I love making pies and any time of the year, really.
So today we're making a mixed berry pie. What are the ingredients that are needed?
We're going to start off with our pastry dough, which will need flour and salt, chilled butter, as well as some chilled ice water with some apple cider vinegar.
Amazing. And we're using what type of flour?
We've got here the Flourist sifted Red Fife flour.
For the full recipe, you can visit our website at AMI.ca/dish-recipes. Okay, I'm ready. Where do we begin?
All right, we're gonna start off with our flour and salt. We're gonna put that in the food processor and mix it together.
Okay, so I'm just gonna open up my food processor. Okay. Perfect. I'm just gonna set my bowl aside.
And we'll just level it in the food processor.
Okay.
And then we'll tip in half of the chilled butter in there. You'll want to put the butter evenly across the surface.
Okay, so I'm just gonna sprinkle my cubed butter all the way around the food processor. And you only want half of this right now?
Yes. The great thing about pie dough is that it's really forgiving. So, if it's not half, you don't have to worry about it.
Well, I hope so, because I'm always nervous about making pies. I don't make many because of that reason. They actually intimidate me.
They used to intimidate me as well, so I completely understand that.
Okay, so I'm just gonna snap the top end of mine.
We're gonna pulse the processor 5 times and then turn it on for 5 seconds.
Okay. 4, 5.
And then 5 seconds. Perfect.
Okay.
And now we're gonna add the rest of the butter and repeat that.
And why did we add it in 2 steps?
We don't want the butter in the pie dough to be all homogeneous, and you actually want it varying in sizes, which is why we pulse 5 times and then press for 5 seconds. So we'll just repeat that again.
1, 2, 4, 5. And then a 5-second mix.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, so we're gonna tip everything, the flour and the butter, into our large mixing bowl.
Okay, I'm just gonna open my lid, remove my lid, and now into the bowl. Oh, I'm feeling it's very soft.
Yeah, very soft. So we'll get ready to add the liquid in there.
Okay.
So we've got our water mixed with apple cider vinegar and a tablespoon. We're gonna drizzle it to the side of the bowl, a few tablespoons at a time.
Okay, so scoop and then just drizzle on the outside or the outer rib of the bowl.
Perfect, yep.
How many are we doing?
I'm doing 3. I've got a big bowl here.
I do, I'm following you. I'm following your lead. 3.
Perfect. And then with the fork, we're gonna flick the flour towards the middle while spinning the bowl, and we'll do 1 turn around.
So you're just flicking, you're not actually pressing anything together.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm just scraping from the sides, bringing into the center.
And then we're gonna repeat that another time.
Okay, I'm going 1, 2, All right, 3. I don't know why I'm counting out loud, but I feel like I have to at this point. Okay, Tina, what are the next steps?
Okay, we're gonna take half of the dough out of the bowl onto our clean surface and shape it into a disc. And you might need a little bit of flour on the counter or a little bit on the hands just to have it come together.
Okay, perfect. So I am probably a little ahead of you because mine actually, I've already formed it into one giant disc.
Okay.
I'm just gonna put my bowl in the sink behind me. Give me one quick sec.
Okay.
All right.
Mary, I'm gonna move this bowl away so you can see what I'm doing here.
Now I can use some flour to dust my surface.
Okay, so I've got this dough and using both my hands, cupping it and turning it around so it forms a bit of a disc, and then also patting it a bit on the top.
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice I actually have this move. I call it the karate chop move, but I slightly chop it down while I turn it.
Okay, so I'm gonna try that too. We're gonna use the side of your hand and just chop down on it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm doing it.
And then I can feel on my hands and on this counter, it is sticking a little bit, so I'm gonna put a little bit of flour underneath.
I'm gonna cut my large disc in half and then I'm gonna form 2 small ones. So I'm just gonna use a bench scraper, which is right beside me. I'm just gonna cut my dough in half and then turn these into 2 separate little discs. I'm gonna use your cupping technique. Flatten the top, and we're gonna karate chop, because that's what I've just learned today. Okay, so we've got 2 separate discs from that one dough ball.
Great. I think we're ready to wrap it up and chill it. I'm gonna wrap this one in plastic wrap. And I see you've got your plastic wrap ready. I'm gonna wrap my first one here, and then I'm gonna form the second half.
Okay, so I'm just placing my plastic wrap over top and then just wrapping it around.
Perfect.
Okay. I don't know about you, but I am feeling very confident. I was nervous at the start, but this seems to have come together so easily.
Now we're gonna let these rest in the fridge, at least a 1-hour rest, but ideally about 3 hours, if not even overnight.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm gonna walk over to my refrigerator and pop these in, get them chilling.
Perfect.
Okay, Tina, I've gone ahead and I've actually made a second disc that I've already had pre-chilled, which I've got in my hand right here.
I do as well.
Okay, so what's our next step?
Perfect, so we'll get rolling. We can unwrap it. I would lightly dust the counter with flour, sparingly at first, and then you can see how it feels as you start to roll it out.
I'm just gonna set my paper aside, my plastic wrap.
You have a beautiful French rolling pin, I've noticed.
Thank you.
So we want to roll from one end to the other end and just in one motion rather than back and forth. So just roll forward and then rotate the dough a quarter turn and then continue rolling in a forward motion.
Perfect.
And then add as much flour as you feel it needs. You don't want it to stick to the counter.
Okay. I'm just gonna put a little bit of flour on my rolling pin because it's sticking on top a little bit.
I've turned mine around and now I'm just rolling on the other side now.
Oh, I've been turning it this whole time. Am I okay to do that? I just keep on turning and turning?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If it starts to crack, you can always just use your finger and press it together to seal it back up again. And the thickness you want to roll to is between 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch.
Now, what I like to do is I actually take my pie plate and I flip it upside down and measure it up against my dough to make sure that I'm actually covering the plate.
I am almost there.
And what should we have in terms of overhang? About an inch?
Yes, about an inch.
Okay.
Perfect. Are we ready to transfer into the pie plate?
Okay, I'm not gonna chance it because you're the expert. I'm a rookie at this and a novice. So I'm gonna flip one side over my rolling pin and then drape it over my pie dish.
I like to keep my pie plate as close as possible and then just do a quick transfer.
Okay.
And you want to just press it ever so gently into the corners of that pie plate as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I've got my dough in my pie dish. We've got plenty more to do. We've got to fill the pie, decorate the pie. But before we do that, I want to learn more about our pastry chef. So when we return, we're going to dish with Tina. Stay tuned. Dish with Mary will return. We now return to Dish with Mary. Welcome back. As promised, we're going to get to know a little more about Tina. So Tina, what was it about pastry baking that interests you?
Well, it really started off early in childhood. My mom was a pastry chef, and I just have memories growing up of watching her make these exquisite cakes, wedding cakes, and confections and pastries. So it really started early on watching her in the kitchen. And from there, I studied nutritional science in university and really enjoyed learning about the science with the cooking aspect of it. And from there on, I started working in test kitchens. So I got a chance to do a lot of recipe writing, recipe development, which really I felt merged the science as well as the cooking aspects together.
So when did you join Flourist?
I joined Flourist about 5 years ago, and I have the opportunity to continue recipe developing with them. And I get the chance to bake with all different types of flour and to see how that contributes to the different baked goods we make.
Now, I know your specialty is pies. And what is it about pies that you love so much?
It reminds me of home. It brings me great comfort. I also think pies are really approachable and simplistic. So it's very comforting for me.
Okay, so what personality traits does one need to become good at pastry making?
I definitely think patience is one of them, but also approaching pastry making with some confidence. I can see how pastry and pie dough in particular can be intimidating. I certainly was intimidated at the beginning, but really, even though the resulting texture is delicate and flaky, I think you can handle pastry dough a bit more and with some confidence.
So at the top, you mentioned that you create recipes and you love recipe development. I love it as well. What's your process like?
Oh, I love sitting down and brainstorming and having a big blue sky. I get inspired by the fresh fruits and vegetables at the market. And I think of flavors that go well together. And I like reading different cookbooks and getting inspiration from traditional recipes. And then from there, just really playing. I like to make different versions of recipes and taste and feel and see how I'd like to make some adjustments.
All this talk about pie is making me hungry. When we come back, we're gonna fill our pie, we're gonna decorate it with this beautiful yet easy lattice crust. So don't go anywhere, stay with us. Stay tuned for more Dish with Mary. We now return to Dish with Mary. Welcome back. So we're getting ready to make our filling and we've got all our ingredients measured out in front of us. Tina, where do we begin?
First, we're gonna combine our sugar and our cornstarch and salt in a small bowl. And I'm just gonna mix it together with a small spoon.
Mixing all the ingredients up with my spoon. All right, so what is next? What's our next step?
We're gonna mix all our berries together.
Okay, let me grab my larger bowl. Put that in front of me. We are working with 3 different types of berries. We've got blackberries, blueberries, and raspberries.
My favorite summer berries.
Okay, I'm just pouring in my blackberry. I've got my blueberries going in. And last but not least, my little ruby raspberries.
And to this, we're gonna add some grated apple.
Just adding that to my bowl.
And I'm just gonna use my hands to toss together the apples and the berries.
Okay, so now that we've mixed this all together.
Now we're gonna toss in our mixed sugars.
Perfect.
Yep, going back in, just a few little tosses. You don't need to over-mix it at this point.
Okay, so I've given mine a quick toss.
I think we need to wash our hands before we get on to putting them in the pie dough.
I agree. I'm gonna turn around, just wash my hands. So my hands are clean and I've got this delicious bowl of mixed berries in front of me. What do we do next?
Before we put them directly in the pie dough, we'll want to brush the bottom with egg wash.
Okay.
And now we're gonna tip our berries into our pie dish and it'll form a mound in the middle. And just to finish this off, we're gonna dot it with a few pieces of butter over top.
Now, we're just doing little pieces, or are we going, oh, you're going a whole cube. Yeah. Awesome.
I like to do a few cubes on the side and then one in the middle.
There we go.
Perfect.
So we made 2 discs of pie dough at the beginning. We've used 1 for the base of our pie, and now we've rolled out the second disc.
Yes, and we're gonna cut the second disc into strips for our lattice. Because we're going a little fancy today, we're gonna use a fluted cutter.
Perfect. So what I'm gonna do with mine is I've got my dough rolled out on a piece of parchment paper inside a rimmed baking sheet. I'm gonna use the side of my baking sheet to start to help and guide me to cut off that first row, so it'll help me keep that straight line.
Very smart. I find as well with lattice crust that sometimes it's helpful to have a little bit extra pie dough so you have more strips to work with.
Okay, so mine are a little smaller than 1.5 inches. Are we okay with that? Can we work with it?
Yes, absolutely.
So I've finished all of my strips. What's next?
Now we're gonna form the lattice on top of the pie.
Okay, we're gonna try this.
Now I'm gonna move the strips over to the side and put the pie right in front of me.
Okay, I'm gonna do the same on my end.
So we're going to first put all the strips down one way, and you want to save your longest strips for the middle, the longest part of your pie.
All right, now we're cooking.
Okay, so you'll want to lay out your next pieces in the same direction, and you can lay them, all the strips, as far apart or close together as you like.
So now I've got all my strips laid on over top, and this is where we're gonna go over under?
Yeah, we'll take our longest strip and put it down the center in the opposite direction.
Okay.
So for me, I'm going to lift up the strips so it creates an over-under pattern.
Okay, over, under.
There you go. And you want to continue on with your next strip until you form a lattice.
My last strip on this side here.
So now we're gonna trim the edges with a pair of scissors or a paring knife. I like to use scissors, I find it easier to work with. And you'll probably trim about 1 inch off the edge of the pie plate.
Okay, I'm doing the same on my end.
And then once I'm finished with that, I'm gonna trim the bottom crust.
So I'm basically just using the rim of my pie dish as a guide.
Yes, exactly.
All right, now I've trimmed everything.
Great, now we're going to fold the bottom dough over the top dough and roll it towards the center.
Okay, so we're creating just like a little lip at the edge.
Exactly, yes.
Like a little border.
A little pie border. Okay, I'm gonna move my baking sheet over to the side, and then we can finish off with crimping our pie. You're gonna use your index finger and your thumb and your index finger.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, so I'm pressing down with my index finger of one hand, and with my second hand, I'm sort of pressing inwards to form that crimp. And then I'll go all along the edges of this pie.
I'm using the first one that I've done, and I put my index finger in that little dent and just to set me up for the next one.
Yes, exactly. And then, so to finish the pie, we're gonna brush it generously with egg wash all around the top as well as into the crimped little edges.
Okay.
So after we've applied the egg wash, we're gonna sprinkle the whole pie generously with our finishing sugar. I like to use a lot of sugar.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
I also like to turn and rotate my pie just in case I've missed any little crevices.
Okay, Tina, I've topped my pie with sugar and it's ready to go. What's our next step?
So normally you'd want to chill it in the refrigerator for 3 hours, and then after 3 hours you want to bake it at 375, and it takes about an hour to an hour and a half.
Through the magic of television, we already have one baked in the oven, so I'm gonna put my raw pie to the side and I'm gonna get the baked one for you. It smells like heaven. Is that a scent?
It should be.
Right? It's got that bakery smell, that sweetness, that comfort. It's golden, it's crispy, it's got that bubbling berry mix inside. Okay, so are we ready to taste this?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so let me just grab my plate and my fork to the side of me here. Knife and my pie lifter. Okay, so I'm just gonna start cutting in.
Let's see. I like a really big slice.
So I should go big?
I mean, why not?
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
We are in business.
Okay.
Okay, do you wanna try?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that crust, it's flaky. The sugar on top just gives you that little crunch. And then the berries, it's not overly sweet, which I absolutely love. Perfect sweetness. This is delicious. Okay, I could eat and make pie all day long. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with me. This was so much fun.
Thanks for having me, Mary. Happy baking.
For the full recipe, visit our website at ami.ca/dish-recipes. See you next time. Host, Mary Mammoliti. Executive producer, Michelle Dudas. Producer, Anna Padra-Barrick. Associate producer and editor, Manuel Grados Andrade. Director of photography, Toronto, Brian Roy. Camera assistant, Toronto, Gavin Lee. Sound recordist, Toronto, Mike Monson. Vancouver production crew supplied by Blink Studios. Production assistant, Miriam Bakhtiar. Food stylist, Joyce Singh. Vancouver videographer, Sergio Vera Barahona. Media accessibility specialist, Simone Cupid. Audio post, Mike Monson. Graphics, Mike Smith. President and CEO, David Arrington. Copyright 2022, Accessible Media Inc.